You should not be able to do this to Grandmaster opponents, and yet here it is, in the flesh, analysed for the first time on YouTube. Magnus Carlsen's legendary king walk. He opens up with the pawn here because he wants this and this with the queen. It's the titled arena, April 21, online chess, but his opponent only goes and anticipates the plan. So because Magnus can't bring the queen out and swap the king and queen's position, he decides to troll him a different way with this pawn push. Magnus showing us how to activate the king here. We get bishop b7 in response, and here we go, king f2. Now, in case you don't know the name of the opening,
it's called the Bongcloud.
This is a kind of variation on it anyway. Watch this. Kingy's going for a walk. Have you ever seen anything more epic, more disrespectful? Magnus gives the opponent the entire center here. Queen e1, and here we go. He sticks the king back. He swapped the places. It's move 8, and the engine gives it -5. That's like saying black's an entire rook ahead already. What incredible odds. How does Magnus go on to smash him from here? What a joke. So the pawn's attacked, but Magnus doesn't care. Lets it drop. Has to now do a little bit of development. Don't Botez gambit your queen. Phew. Now it's attacked once more, and Magnus activates. Hits this pawn, but it's actually now offered with knight b to d7. Magnus doesn't go for it. You know, you could do so, but you give this huge initiative. Understandably, he wants to develop a bit, or does he? He now pushes another pawn. I mean, this is getting absolutely ludicrous. All of these pieces stuck on the Etienne back row. He's trying to trap this bishop, though, and win it. Therefore, it saves itself. And now knight h3. Normally a very stinky place to put a knight, but it does attack and defend and that sort of thing. The bishop now saves itself. The best way to play was actually with some queen trap ideas, but we'll stick with the game here. Now we get takes. Pawn recaptures. Magnus drops back to pick up that pawn, but even so, after pawn c4, great move, he's still under huge pressure because look at the sorry state of his king. That's why the pawn wasn't yet captured, using it as an umbrella. We now see this knight rotate into c5, defend the pawn, good move, and Magnus goes knight f2, intensifies the pressure, also defends the center. That was one of the big threats when the knight hopped forward. Now we get the rook adding its pressure on the central pawn, and Magnus just goes for it now. With this one, it's pawn to g4. I mean, we've not seen a move that bold since Yasser Serwan said, "Leslie, fetch my Hawaii tank top. We're going running." How does his opponent respond? Well, before Magnus can have it all his own way, he counters on the queen side. Now we see Magnus pushing the pawn here to try and keep the lines closed. These aren't necessarily the best moves, but this is human chess. And in response, e5, again trying to peel open the center. Magnus glides by, and now his opponent goes for the epic rook lift into the center of the board. Huge pressure on this pawn. Magnus just defends in time, and the knight rotates round, attacks another weakness, defended by the rook. Queen d6, black still stands better. Look at the huge pressure bearing down on the position, but Magnus's glimmer of hope is these pawns. They see me rolling, they hating, they're advancing fast. Magnus decides to walk the king once more. The knight jumps in, and after rook h3, Magnus whispering, "Do you even rook lift, bro?" We see a mistake from black here. What should be played? Well, it's not easy to find the top move, which is knight c3, sacking a knight just to get these two connected monster pawns. Okay, not easy, but instead in the game we see pawn h6. Bad move because
mushrooms.
Magnus gets play where he wants it. He counters now with this pawn f6 move. Really nice play, and king f8 is actually best. Instead, we get pawn g6. We're back to a level game according to the all-powerful Eval Barovich. This is incredible. Now we see takes here. Rook takes, pawn takes. Yes, this one drops, but Magnus gets this huge counterplay. Pawn's running. He's also looking down here now. So the king slides up, making way. Well, we're going to see first knight g4. Don't blunder your queen. It activates here. h7. It's in the delivery suite. We can see the head, but the midwife drops drops back to stop it actually becoming a queen. That doesn't make any sense. They would help it become a queen. Let's carry on here. I'm struggling today. The knight now drops back, and it's not actually the best move because you can now just bring this one around. Whoops, you were meant to make the queen there basically, but after knight e3 you can bring this rook across. This is the top line. White has to now check. This is how the game goes. Black stands better. You're going to come round and mop up that pawn, but missed. In this position here, we got knight e3 and now bishop c8 blunder because Magnus has a little tactical shot, and it starts with this one pushing the juicer. Because if you capture the queen, well, we're going to show it, we're going to see it in the game. This one, I mean. If you take this one, then there's this lovely little intermezzo, Zwischenzug check, and you're going to pick up that queen or checkmate the king. You know, say you try and save the queen here, this sort of thing. We can actually give a piece just to shut this trap on the king. One sample line here, you're getting hunted. That's a checkmate. So let's run it back. In this position, after the queen was made, this one was captured. The queen slides back, and again, the best move is this tactical shot, giving a piece for a monster pawn armada, but missed. King f8 was played, so understandable, but actually you're walking into mating nets, and this is a great move because not only do you hit the queen, but you shut the king's escape square, so you're now threatening mate in one. No time for queen h6 to cover it. The knight's on the square. What to do? Well, you have to now give an exchange. Pawn recaptures, king g7 now played, rook c1, and Magnus is a full rook ahead here. Absolutely incredible how he's turned the tables. He's now threatening pawn b3, kick the defender of this knight, but he rook lifted first because otherwise this one was going to sit here, intercept the attack. Therefore this knight now drops back, but again Magnus just turning the screw with rook c8 because he now threatens mate in one, the rook and queen converging here. So the queen covers with this one, but you got problems. Tactical shot. Can you find the winning move here? Well done if you saw it. It's rook g8 check because you're deflecting the king away from the defense. Magnus a queen ahead now. Yes, black finally gets these pawns running, but to what avail? Because the queen and knight are around the king now, about to chop its head off. Love how Magnus brings in the bishop, sacrificing it, takes, but look at this extra one, attacking. We get b3, e7, now another check, couple more desperate checks, but look at this, pawn b2, and we see resignation before Magnus could shut the trap, or maybe lost on time. You can either mate the queen, or you can checkmate like this. What an absolutely ludicrous, incredible game. Hope you enjoyed that one, and have a look at the video on screen if you want to see more Magnus Carlsen madness. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.